Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Jaguares versus the Sharks, brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby opinion and predictions. So, the Jaguares win 6 on the trot, and they've just beaten the Sharks by 29 points to 13. There was a try at the death, so it wasn't that big a gap the whole way through, but they were definitely convincing winners. Joining me this morning, or evening, depending where you are in the world, is Shane. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning, Paul. How are you, mate?
Cold.
I'm going well, yeah.
Good but cold, yeah, got my layers on. And we'll be definitely layered up today. It's good. Winter has come. And so, yeah, the Starks are right. Winter will arrive sooner or later. Great crowd today, and dry conditions. So all set up for a good game.
Absolutely. How good's it to see the sunlight to start a game? One thing I like is that sort of atmosphere, and look, I've got to say, it wasn't the greatest game I've ever seen, but there is one well-deserved winner out of this, and that's the Jaguares. They were outstanding.
Absolutely, and whilst it perhaps wasn't the spectacle we've seen in some of the other games, I think the defences have got a lot to do to play on that, especially in that first half. In that first half, the Sharks were up at about 90%. The Jaguares up in the high 80s as well. So the defences definitely were on top in that first half. And as we find, as players get more tired, the defences drop off, and the attacking defences drop down to 78% and 82% by the end of the game. But I think that early piece there was probably what the early strong defence was probably what made it not so much perhaps not such a try scoring spectacle in the end for this one.
Yeah.
And hi Christian, great to see you in the live chat. Thank you very much for joining us. But so early on, the Jaguares had the Sharks pinned in, but they penalties let them off the hook, and they cleared out. And I did early on wonder if this was going to be was going to be very few scoring opportunities. I mean, the first score didn't come out until 13 minutes, and then that was a penalty kick, and then it took another quarter of an hour before we actually got another score on the board. The Sharks missing a couple of kicks, a bit uncharacteristic of them, really.
Well, it is, particularly when you're out in front. You should be nailing that one. And then you just saw a stalemate, really, of the midfield forwards banging it up and kicking it away and trying to find some territory. And it was almost like it was within the 222s for a while there, wasn't it?
It was. There was a lot of that, and the Sanchez in particular for the Jaguares was winning that kicking game on the whole, and so the Sharks, who've got two great kickers in Dupria and Bosch, are not used to that happening to them. First off, Sanchez's kicking was good, but the chasing by his wingers in particular, and also Buffelli, their back three in the air, had a great night tonight, collecting those balls.
Oh, they did, and one thing that was clear to me is that Sanchez has really just grown as a player, particularly over these 6 weeks where they've had the 6 in a row. And he's really learnt his kicking game, and he's learnt to structure it right. And it's making the territorial gains fantastic for his wingmen to chase, because they know they can make that ground up.
Yeah, and Jan Solo in the chat goes, what changed from last year to this year to make the Jags good? And part of that is the more composed play of Sanchez. He historically, I thought he can be a bit hot and cold and needed the steadying hand of Hernandez outside him. I've said this before on the channel, but at the moment, his composed play has been very good. And the other go on.
The other part for me, Paul, is discipline. They've learnt to cut down their penalties. and the amount of penalties that they give out, and they're just playing that structured game, and they're keeping to their tactics, and they're pulling off their tactics and scoring some great tries too.
Yep, there's a discipline which it went a bit shady a little bit in the second half, but on the whole was pretty good. I think they gave us, what is it? The final penalty count was 9-10, so 9 is not a bad number. They used to be quite often into the teens with that, and also on the wrong side of the card count. The other thing, finally, that I think they're doing well this year that they haven't, that they previously, when they first arrived especially, was knowing when and where to play. Yes, they have good backs who can offload and can do good hands, but you don't want to be using them in your own 22. And in the first year, especially when Jaguares joined Super Rugby, they were just trying to offload everything. And that's slowly matured into a state now that they know when to use their forwards and when to use their backs, and they're playing at the right time in the right part of the field rather than just trying to play from everywhere. And the combination of those three things really is what's made the Jaguares, and also actually improvement. And there's also probably an element of they've learnt a large element of the organisationally they've learnt how to travel, which, as we saw on that tour to Australia and New Zealand, travel takes whole days of your training and your recovery out, and so you have to learn how to restructure your whole training programs, your whole recovery programs. And clearly, one of the things that they've managed to figure out now after a few years is experimented a few ways and come up with how they can do that. So it's the combination of those four things is why we're suddenly seeing what feels like an overnight change is actually a change that's been evolving over time, but the results have suddenly clicked here. Mario Ledesma is a good coach, but it's not all down to him by any stretch of the imagination.
No, there's no I in team.
Oh, but there's me if you look hard enough. So, as I say, Sanchez was winning that kicking game, which meant that the Sharks generally were playing from their own half quite a lot, and they weren't they weren't getting the territory they needed. And another problem here, I think player of the match is either Sanchez or Buffelli. Buffelli had a great game this evening. Spotted that that there was no one guarding the ruck, ghosted through that hole. Some great supporting by a lot of players, and be able to see where the support is, where the space is, not just by Buffelli. There was a lock involved as well, who was very aware of where that ball was going. There was no kind of he knew where his support players would be, where the space would be, and lovely hands to get that opening try.
No, absolutely. They're just, and that's what they're bringing now. They're bringing that attacking quality, and they're learning, as you said, Paul, when to keep the ball in hand, when to offload, when to pick and drive, and they got the numbers there. Their first try. Yep,
absolutely. And we'll talk about it later on, but the pillar defence by the Sharks tonight was pretty poor. We saw the scrum half being able to snipe through that hole off the back of scrums or off the back of line-outs. There were the close-in defenders were very quick to drift, and the Jaguares spotted that and took full advantage about that. Then on 32 minutes under advantage, Buffelli again makes a little break, gets tackled but kicks the ball downfield, leads to an absolute comedy of errors by the Sharks. Dupria picks it up in an offside position straight under his own posts. He had to do that, to be honest, otherwise it would have been a try. I think it should have been a penalty try, to be honest, because there's three Sharks there and him and the try line, and he picks it up in an offside position. If he wasn't there, which he shouldn't, which is how you have to take these things into consideration when there's an infringement like that, would the Sharks have scored? Yes. Instead, quick tap by the Sharks, not by the Sharks. Quick tap by the Jaguares, two passes out wide, and there's the winger doing what a winger should do, hanging out on the wing, waiting for someone to give him the ball so he can just walk over.
Well, I have to address the comedy of errors because I think John Cleese would be pretty proud from the Monty Python series. But don't try and pick up the ball from an offside position when I guess he was trying to ground the ball over his in goal. I think that's what he was trying to do.
Oh, the winger, but Dupree, yes. Once it had been knocked on, though, Dupree had no choice but to pick it up in the offside position. But why don't players fall on the ball anymore? That's all he needed to do. Fall on the ball. No, I will roll it along the ground backwards, and then someone else will knock it on, and we'll all just panic.
The Jaguares just took advantage of. I think that was just a walk in the park try, really. There was just some simple phase play, nice pass, and over he goes.
It was good. Again, awareness of where the space is, get the ball to the guy who's in the space, and you're going to do well. Certainly. We then had a period of nearly 40 minutes where the Jaguares didn't score. Then the Sharks really came back into this one. So we had 17 unanswered points by the Jaguares. The Jaguares start to miss a few tackles, and the Sharks managed to find some space out wide with their wingers to gain territory, and the Jaguares come offside. Nice little move offside. Sorry, kick to the corner, and a nice little move off the line out. Fake them all, and actually overthrow them all, and get the guy to catch and peel off and run in.
That reminded me a little bit of the old George Gregan, a little bit cheeky, and found an easy gap and put it through for a try. It was a good way for them to finish a half, given the pressure they'd been under.
Absolutely, and they needed that score for the half to have any chance in this game, and narrowed it. So it was 17-7 at half time. The Sharks really hadn't got down into the Jaguares half very often in their 22, but when they did, there were some real problems. At that restart from the Jaguares' second try, the Sharks turned the ball over and immediately give up a penalty, releasing the pressure, letting the Jaguares have a nice easy clear out, and with Sanchez's boot, you know it's going to be up near the halfway line, and suddenly from you having the ball in their 22, the Jaguares on your halfway line, having a line out, and when they win 20 out of 20 of their line outs, you're basically gifting them territory and possession halfway up the pitch. And that kind of stuff just kept on happening. There were too many errors of that kind of style. The Jaguares did it as well. I mean, we had 18 turnovers by the Jaguares, 16 by the Sharks. The Sharks were more at the breakdown. The Jaguares were more handling errors as a style. But those errors really stopped the Sharks' flow quite a lot of the time. Into the second half, and it was actually again at the beginning of the half, a bunch of penalties, and the Sharks got their scoreboard ticking over with a couple of nice kicks over.
Yeah, they did, but you wondered still at that stage, could the Sharks actually make a come from behind win here? I thought they started off the second half the better. I think a few little ill-disciplined errors from the Jaguares at the time got those two penalties over for the Sharks, but started to turn out a bit of a different story later on.
Yeah, it did, and I tweeted out actually when it got to 17-13 that the Jaguares needed to score next, because it felt at that stage that, I mean, it had been something like half an hour since they'd scored any points. That we'd had 13 unanswered points by the Sharks, and the Sharks felt like they were getting the upper hand. And who comes to the rescue but Buffelli again? fine, they didn't score off this move, but he showed that the Jaguares were not going to lie down. Again, through the centre near the ruck, gets the Jaguares within 5 metres, and you're like, okay, yep, they're back now. They've got the pressure, they've got the territory, they're attacking again. Fine, Kramer knocked the ball on when he could have scored. It was a tough ball to hold on to, but it showed that the Jaguares were back again, and the momentum shift came back, and maybe the Sharks shouldn't have been going for 3. They needed the 7s at that, and should have gone to the corners.
Yeah, well, they had that opportunity with Mvovo, and Mvovo knocked the ball on as it was deemed by the TMO. That wasn't a bad kick, actually, to get him to almost force the ball down, which he didn't quite do. Yep. But when you saw that, you realised they've just blown 7 here. And it's up to the Jaguares to counter that and counter that pressure, get down the other end. And when you knew they were down the other end and they were playing with the confidence they were, there was always a chance of more points in this game, and it was going to be to them.
Yep, absolutely. They did have a scrum penalty line-up maul. Next move looked like they'd gone over, but got disallowed for a double movement, spotted by the TMO. So well spotted by him there. Took a bit of a while for the ref and the TMO to communicate in that one, but on the whole, I think the ref had a decent.
It was a clear double movement.
It was a clear double, yeah.
But they had the advantage as it was, so
they had the advantage. So again, another 5 metre line out maul, but this time this time they failed to go anywhere. Then we had that break that you were talking about the knock on the line by the Sharks. So it was all very much in the balance around that sort of hour mark. And then came the killer blow, turn the ball over, they quick maul, flip the ball up to a winger in midfield who just goes straight through next to the ruck. And where again the pillar defenders had already started drifting. And who's supporting him? The other winger down the centre of the pitch. You're like, well, what are these two guys doing in the middle of the pitch? But hey, it worked. Fantastic. Draw the man and pass. Again, another comedy of errors from the back 3 of the Sharks as they bounced off each other and both fell over, tackling the man. We had 2 defenders. We had two attackers. They needed to stay on their own man and trust their pace to catch him. They didn't. They both got suckered into the man with the ball, and it was an easy try. An easy try with a wonderful pass, timed pass to release him. That put it to 24-13, and basically won the game at that point with 10 minutes to go, being 2 scores ahead, and it being 2 tries needed to get ahead. That 11 points made the big difference. So the conversion was important there. That was a big moment in the game. Then we could see the frustration come through, clear out, shoulder to the head, easily again caught by the TMO, not by the referee. We were further down the pitch. Clear red card.
Well, I saw it, and immediately when I saw it, the first instance of that replay, I said red, and that was very dangerous contact to the head. He wasn't even using the arms. He was using the shoulder. And fantastic refereeing. They sorted it out very quickly. And both is a great player, but you've got to say, when you do that sort of stuff, on your bike, son.
As captain, you're supposed to be leading by example. You're not supposed to be getting yourself sent off in the crucial last 10 minutes. And I initially thought that it was going to be yellow. Then I looked at it again. It was like, yeah, he's caught the guy in this kind of the neck head area. Sorry for those listening on the podcast. I'm just showing people on my head where he got hit. And yeah, the player thankfully got up and wasn't injured. But that kind of stuff is, as you say, extremely dangerous. After that, the Jaguares just went down and camped in the Sharks 22, hunting for that try bonus point, and it looked like they were going to mess it up. I mean, we had another line out move with the scrum half offloading to the winger, hitting that pillar area. Unfortunately, unfortunately for Jaguares, he knocked it on, and so that move came to a hold. But at the end of the game, time running out, line out maul, mauling away. What do? We look down the blind side, see there's no pillar defence on the blind side. Hence the scrum half could nip down there, draw in the winger, put the winger in no man's land, and put his own winger through for an easy try in the corner. Who cared about the conversion at that point? It was a matter of getting that 3-try lead and the try bonus point, so who cares if it's out wide? But Sanchez, hey, having a great day with the boots, knocks over the 2 as well.
Yeah, and that wrapped things up, didn't it? I mean, it was the last 10, 15 minutes were very clinical stuff from the Jaguares and knew what they were doing. And they wanted that bonus point. They went to the corner just before the full-time siren blew. They said, we are getting the 5 points. We're not coming away with 4. And I knew then it was pure mathematics. They want to really give the Lions a real chase for their money, and good on them.
Good on them. Brent says in the corner that he thinks this is the 3rd or even 4th card that both has picked up this season. You can't afford to be giving up those sort of cards.
No.
And when one of the things we said, why the Jaguares doing well? Well, one of the 4 things that they've improved is not giving up cards. So it's that's a good reason as to why the Sharks are struggling this season. Their discipline has been appalling to be giving up that many cards. Question in here is and the big question is can the Jaguares catch the Lions in the South Africa Conference? We will find out. They do have a game in hand, I believe, and all their games are conference games against. I think they've got the Sharks, Stormers, and the Bulls coming up. So, yeah, the Jaguares have got a very good chance now of making the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will, mate. I think this side has shown over 6 weeks A, courage, B, flair, and C, they can play some fantastic rugby, and D, they've held their discipline. Hold on to your hats, guys. The Jaguares are on the march. Or on the chase.
On the chase, yes.
On the chase.
And you've got to say, with those games coming up, they have a decent chance of going undefeated through to the end of the regular season. They could pick up. I can't remember if it's got 3 or 4 more games, but they could pick up 3 more wins. So that would be an amazing run. And let's be honest, none of us at the beginning of the season were thinking the Jaguares were going to be playoff contenders. We thought the Sharks were going to be the Lions' biggest threat, with the Stormers lacking experience in that half-back positions, and with the Bulls having a new coach and being in a transition year. This was supposed to be the Sharks' year. It's definitely not proved yet. Not gone that way.
Not by a long shot. A few little statistics for you, Paul.
Oh, I love my stats. Come on.
Well, it's interesting. The Sharks have beaten 3 New Zealand opponents, and they've got a bonus point out of the Hurricanes' loss. The Jaguares only won 2 against New Zealand. The Jaguares have won 3 against Australian opponents. I can't count from memory how many the Sharks have won against us, but the all-important issue is that the Sharks have become hot and cold this year. The Jaguares have gone on a 6-game winning streak with a few games left in the season. Winning games, any game, is important, yes, but it's how you win, and it's who you win against that's even more important. because conference games are 10-pointers. And, well, that just proved it tonight, didn't it?
No, absolutely, yeah. If you're getting those wins over every one of the Jaguares games from now on are 10-pointers, potentially. They've with all their conference games left. The Bulls still have to travel to Singapore. I'm not sure about the Sharks if they're at home now for the rest of it. Obviously, the Jaguares have to travel to South Africa, I think, for 2 of those games. So they'll still need to be making sure their passports have got all their visas in them and got all their inoculations. After the mess up that we had earlier in the season. So players that stood out for you, I mean, Buffelli clearly for me did. A bit surprised that he only made 69 metres running with ball in hand. I thought he was going to be one of the top ones, but the carries he did have, 2 clean breaks, 4 defenders beaten, had a very good day.
Petty and Moyano for me. I thought they were the real standouts for the Jaguares tonight.
Yeah,
Petty was in everything.
So looking at Moyano, 129 metres carried off his 13 carries, 5 clean breaks, 6 defenders beaten. Some players would like that in the season, never mind a game. He had a fantastic game as well. And then trying to find Petty's stats, but failing. Anyway, those guys did. One of the things we talked about was that whilst we talk about the backs, I mean, all 4 tries were by wingers this weekend for them. It's the forwards that often set that up for, and that was again true today. Chapereau 9 carries, the prop, Lavanini 7 carries, Kramer 9 carries, Desio 7 carries. A lot of carries by the forwards there to set the platform, to draw in the defenders, to make that space for the backs. And that's what we were talking about earlier, about the balance of their play, about when to play and how to do it.
And that just shows you that they've obviously behind the scenes done a lot of work with the conditioning of the forwards, and they've also built up their work rate to be very solid and strong. Yep. And it's really good to see.
It is. Creevy surprisingly had only 3 carries in this game, but we saw him turning over the ball and getting over the rucks. So his
line-outs were very clean too.
Exactly. They won 20 from 20 of their line-outs. So both him and the replacement hooker did well. Creevy got through a bunch of defensive work. He was the top tackler, which on the Jaguares side, which is possibly why he wasn't getting so much of the runs in there. And again, we also talked about who got forced to make tackles amongst the Sharks. It was Depria and Walt, the flankers, 11 and 10. They were very good. They only missed 1 each. And then you look into the backs. Bosch didn't have to make 1 tackle all night. Nikosi again made 1, missed 6 tackles, which probably tells a different story as well as to once they got wide. And the backs didn't and the wingers didn't have the support, they were clearly in trouble. Any final thoughts on the game?
I've got to just say, well done. That's almost brings a tear. It does bring a tear to your eye to see the Jaguares play almost like an old school 90s Australian side, with their blistering counter attacks. They're punching through the line in their phase play, their quick backs and their mobile work rate forwards. Well done, boys. Well done, you deserve it.
Well done. They now sit 5th in the table. Sure, they have played 2 more games than the Highlanders and the Chiefs, who have yet to play this weekend. But as Juan Solo says, this is really the feel-good story of this year's conference. Well, not just this year's conference, but this year's season, the whole competition. So yes, it's great to be watching these games and watching them win and have the opportunity to talk about them in such a positive light after the game as well.
And I think we're starting to see too, Super Rugby is starting to get its competitiveness back, the things that fans complained about over the last couple of years with lopsidedness and this conference and 4 conferences instead of the now natural 3 that we got again. Super Rugby's become more enjoyable to watch. Just look at the Sunwolves the last couple of weeks before their big loss last night, though. But they beat the Stormers. The Stormers are supposed to be right up there themselves in the South African Conference. A week before that, they beat my Reds, which means I've got no hair left. But it's just been Super Rugby's starting to get more enjoyable again to watch. I know in some Australian circles they'll say no, it's not, but let's stick with it, because I reckon this year's warm up to next year, and I think you'll see a different picture still.
Yeah, no, and I think it is heading in the right direction. Unfortunately, certain sections of the media have decided that the best way to get views and clicks is just to bash the competition. But no, look. You look at how long it took the Melbourne Rebels to get vaguely competitive, how long it took the Force to. Expansion teams take time to learn the system. Doesn't matter. You talk about, but it's supposed to be the Argentinian international team. Well, yes, they've not been that great either over the last couple of years. But there is a lot more to it than just what happens on game day. There's the whole organisation, how you travel, how you train, how you structure your training that I talked about earlier. That takes time to learn. It's taken the New Zealand sides. They've had 20 years to learn how to do that, and the Sunwolves and the Jaguares having to do it on the hoof. And so yes, it's going to take them time to do that. Unfortunately, the Sunwolves. What we saw with the Sunwolves this weekend, I've not seen the game yet, but just looking at the selection, is a reminder that it's all about international rugby. And so Jamie Joseph pulled the majority of his Japanese internationals for a training camp or to prepare for the June internationals, and basically sacrificed this game against the Rebels. So I've not seen it yet or seen the highlights. I've just seen the result, and so. But looking at the lineups, that's basically what he did, and that does hurt the competition when you're not getting full strength sides out some weekends. A bit like and this isn't just against the Sunwolves, because the Chiefs game over in South Africa last weekend or weekend before, I've gone blank now, where again all the All Blacks had to fly back to New Zealand for a training camp, which showed that actually what's important, international rugby is important. You've got to how seriously are you taking Super Rugby? And that's unfortunately it doesn't help the brand at all. Cool. So yes, thank you very much for joining me, Shane. It's been an absolute pleasure. Let people know where they can get hold of you during the week to chat all things rugby.
At School of Mate, SCOOLM8 on Twitter. Let's talk rugby.
Cool. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. So obviously you're on the Twitter channel or the podcasting stream. If you're on the podcasting stream, please do subscribe and give us that 5-star review. If you're on the YouTube, then please hit that like button. And if you don't want to miss any more of my videos, then hit that subscribe button as well. Always up for good rugby chats. Please leave comments down below, or you can get hold of me on Twitter at DrivingMaul. It's gone a bit busy there over the last 24 hours. So sorry if I don't reply to you straight away. It's all kicked off a bit there. But so thank you, everybody. And I will be back for, I think the next game is one of the Major League Rugby games this afternoon. And then I'll be back again this evening for the Chiefs versus the Waratahs from Hamilton. I will be here in New Plymouth, obviously. But do catch me for live post-match reaction to that game later.